Woo! I starting off with a question. My question is, I start off with the question. My question for tonight is, how much do you, as I finish prepping this, as we let it fill up, how much do you really if I told you that the ultimate outcome, one of the underlining factor or the outcome of your work, you working on yourself, you doing this stuff that you need to do, is to no longer be familiar to any of your behaviors. Before I understood, oh shit. Before I understood just how powerful, get it all. Took a lovely shower in the dark. Hit myself with that sage, feeling real. I'm feeling magnificent right now. Welcome, welcome, welcome. As we get into Pluto rising, understanding the difference between dismissing and submitting. Until you acknowledge your behavior, you are doomed to repeat shit. Until you acknowledge your behaviors, you will always repeat the same cycle. It's the behavior. It's always been your behavior. Your behavior or your reaction is what sets that timeline. the longer that you dismiss your reaction, the longer that you dismissing your behaviors and why you behave and why you react a certain way, that's the dismissing. A lot of times we think that we're submitting to the attributes to be open to learn. That's vulnerability. I talked about that last week. That vulnerability is so important in your work because that's going to help you be able to set everything up. That's going to help you create. Without vulnerability, we can't create. Without vulnerability, you can't create. You're only going to be stuck within that emotional timeline or that behavior that you're not addressing. The behavior is that fear. The behavior is that anger. That behavior is that you being angry all the time. That behavior is you saying that you're not lazy, but yes, you are lazy. It's time for you to take full accountability and responsibility for you. That's what it's time for. A lot of times we don't want to take the full aspect of responsibility that comes with it. We say we say, oh, I'm gonna start taking accountability, I'm gonna start taking responsibility. Here's the problem. If you really knew the depth of responsibility, what responsibility was, blessings. If you knew the depth to what your responsibility was to yourself, to actually sit there with yourself with an unbiased filter, unbiased, no cognitive biases, not blaming it on somebody else, not blaming the fact that you can't get your work done because of this, and this, not saying because you can't do this, and this because of this. That shit's done and over with. Every time something comes up in your space, everything down here, we don't get into this tonight. Everything down here is created based on your behavior. All it can do is siphon from your behavior. All it can do is create behavior and create the emotional attachments. That's what you keep creating down here. Your behavior gives you your emotional attachment. As long as you behave in the same way and you keeping the same damn behavioral algorithm going, you're always going to repeat the same emotional shit. A lot of us come into this space with ourselves. I remember coming into the space with myself and I was like, okay, cool. I'm awake. I'm conscious. I'm awake. I didn't know what the fuck that shit meant. So since I didn't take the accountability before I became study all and follow none, before I became Mr. Fuck Them Kids, before I became Papa Lucifer, I had to go through this process. And I talked about it, part one of the true aspects of shadow work on the channel. But I had to really understand that I'm not maneuvering my life. My life's not being maneuvered by me. Or rather, my life was not being maneuvered by me. My time was not being maneuvered by me. My fear created the fear that I was not dealing with was giving me the reason to react in that act in that certain behavior program. And the longer that I stayed in that timeline, the longer things came up to keep me acting that way because I was a slave to my emotions. One of the biggest things that I always say, it's time to stop blaming niggas, other bitches, white women, white men, Asians, Bill Gates, Kevin Samuels. Stop blaming motherfuckers when you get triggered. That's their point. They are there based in the behavior. Everything down here is based on behavior. Think about it like this. I remember one time for myself, I was like, you know what? I don't feel like celebrating my birthday this year. I remember once, like it was like 4 years ago. I don't feel like celebrating my birthday this year, and I said it. And then everybody was asking me, "Yo, what we gonna do on your birthday?" and all this shit. And I'm like, I really like. Instead of me saying I really don't feel like celebrating my birthday, and even when I did say it, that's the key part. Even though me not saying it was just as bad as how I was saying it. You saying some shit is just as bad as you not saying it. That's you becoming direct with yourself. Being able to speak from a direct point. A lot of us are not direct. A lot of us are not used to that direct flow or that direct current of something coming to us in a direct manner outside of the biases and the excuses. That's why that's the definition of a trigger. A trigger does not come through to you through a bias to make you feel good about yourself. No, it's going to make you better. It's going to make you automatically feel better about yourself. It's going to make you take ownership about yourself. It's going to make you tap into that responsibility with yourself. So when you going through your retrograde right now, you're going through this Pluto retrograde, and it's bringing up every conflict. It's bringing up every issue, especially now, as I said, that veil is gone. There's no more veil. So all you have is your shadow right there in front of you to deal with. So the conflicts the inner conflict has gotten louder. The inner conflict has gotten louder. In this space, based on your behavior, that's where you get the pacifying and the crutches and it's going to be okays and those things to keep you within a state of your comfort within your behavior, the reason that you react. That's the same reason with the aspect of, I asked myself a question the other day. I was like, someone asked me a question the other day, and I really asked myself the question back. They were like, yo, so what do you think about the vaccine? I don't. And they were like, wait, how can you not think about the vaccine? They're trying to kill us, just like back in the day. You know, they gave us syphilis and all of this shit. Nigga, they didn't give me syphilis. They didn't give me syphilis, nigga. I understand me looking back at that, because if I look at it based on the behavior to react, I can't looking back and understand, okay, cool. Why did this happen? What was the plan of attack? What was the call to action for that to happen? They lied to him. They said they were going to give him free health care. These aspects that they didn't give to themselves yet. So for me to sit here in the current space right now, am I going to repeat this same ritual to myself? And am I going to repeat the same shit? No, I'm not going to repeat the same thing. Motherfuckers going to look at me like, oh my God, I can't believe you ain't. Peace, peace, peace. I can't believe you ain't. Why the fuck am I going to deal with the fuck? Why? Why? You got to take yourself out of that mindset of dismissing learning. This is what happens for us. Like, we dismiss the learning, the chance to learn some shit. We dismiss the chance to really learn some shit. That's why you keep repeating it, because you keep dismissing, because it's gonna make you feel some type of way. It's gonna make you look indifferent. If you think outside of the term of the identity of the collective behavior in that timeline, then you're gonna be the odd man out or the odd woman out. Fuck that shit. I fuck with me all the way. Unbiased, no attachments, done the work, tapped in, did the work, went through the darkest realms of myself, went through the darkest realms of myself, understood, brought myself back, killed myself, did my whole spine joint, came back, let go of Wanda, or let go of let go of the wound that was on my heart of Wanda, let go of Wanda, and I let go. And I'm in the space now where I'm like, that doesn't have nothing to concern with me. That's a fear aspect. So now when I look at it, when I hear anything about the vaccine, when I hear anything about Bill Gates and his wife divorcing, when I see this shit, now if I decide to go on the internet and I go and say, let me go look at CNN.com real quick, and let me go look at the fear, let me go look at that little fear meter they got hanging over there in the balance. Oh shit, that shit's in the red. That means some shit about to drop. That means prices are about to drop. Let me go put some puts in on my stocks. Let me go trade and move around some cryptocurrency. Let me get into that wave real quick. That ain't got shit to do with me. Either you're going to feed and get your life together, get yourself together and start doing what you need to do, or you're not. There is no more of this, okay, I can't do this because of this, and this. Everything in your space only exists based on your behavior. Everything in your space only exists based on your behavior. That's the frequency aspect. The emotional aspect is the vibration. You really gotta I'm on a different frequency, I'm on a different vibration. I'm on a different frequency, I'm on a different vibration. Nigga, what's a frequency? What's a vibration? What's the frequency? What's a vibration? The vibration is the vibration is your behavior. The frequency is your emotions. So we got to stop. We have to really start with this process when we're really doing our work. You can tell when you're really doing your work and it's actually taking you to that point with yourself because you're able to simplify it. That is the number one identifier of you doing your work. It's because you're able to simplify it. The fact that I'm able to simplify shadow work, understanding shadow work, psychotherapy, me doing this work, the fact that I can simplify this into a formula that I can put into the LLC mentality, and I can take that same formula of understanding my damn shadow work and being like, okay, cool. That's why this came into my space. All right, cool. It's all based in the emotional aspect. But if I'm stuck and I can't if I'm not simplifying it, I'm still depending on the anchor being the raw. I'm being raw with the information. You ain't being raw with the information until you simplifying it. You're not being raw. The information ain't raw until you simplify it. It's cooked up. In the book, this book's been pressed. This has been cooked. This has been cooked. This has been put together. Take it apart. That has shit. Make that shit raw. Break that shit down. That's your aspect of you changing that's you changing your space. That's you addressing your space. The more that you get used to this synthesis of doing this process, the more you understand that your behavior creates the timeline of your environment. Mm-hmm. Exactly. You want to sit there, you want to sit there and change the way you want to give this false illusion that you're changing something into something else when all you're doing is dismissing or laying things dormant. That's why a lot of people they'll sit there and be like, you hear comments about, I don't want to fuck with polygamy because polygamy is this, and this. You got to go deeper. I didn't say, nigga, I'm plant based. That's my choice. That's for me. It works for me. It gives me my creative catalyst because I can go in the kitchen and turn mushrooms into chicken, steak, and everything else. And that's my creation project. That's my alchemical process. That's for me. I'm not attached to anything. That's how I stay connected to my power. When you come into these spaces with yourself and you're doing your work, you're doing your shadow work, you're acknowledging these behaviors. You're acknowledging the behavior. The behavior got to be acknowledged before you even get to the emotional aspect. That's why a lot of people are sliding back away from, people are slide back from their spiritual growth and slide back from their work because they're not really they're in order to address the behavior, the emotion, I got to address my behavior. That means in order to apologize to myself, and the definition of an apology is change behavior. That's why I keep hitting that wall. I'm not willing to change my behavior. I'm still getting some shit from here. People still need me. They don't need you. They need you based in your behavior. When I changed my behavior, the environment changed. The same things that were in my environment changed when I changed my behavior. Because in changing my behavior, I was able to invest into my emotional maturity. But until I was willing to change my behavior, the way I was acting, the way I was take responsibility for my behavior, my reaction, I couldn't get into my emotions. I could not open up that vulnerability. I couldn't open up that box. This happened like this is where that emotional conflict comes from. This is where that internal conflict comes from. You get stuck because you're still trying to maintain and build on a timeline that was built within the doubt, the insecurity, the jealousy. You ain't dealt with them aspects yet. Every time you're trying to build something, then it gets knocked back down by the same behavior, the same behavioral aspects. That means people can act the same exact way and take you out of your shit. People act the same exact way and knock you out of your shit. It's like you sitting there. It's like you sitting there with yourself being like, that's like me sitting here right now and being like, I can't start a business because the white man ain't going, the bank ain't gonna give us no loans because they don't loan to people like us. All right, cool. All right, bet, cool. All right, all right, cool. That sounds good. So now you sitting there in that space, and now you decide, you know what? It's time. You want to start a business. You want to get on the side hustle, and you doing it based on frustration. You're doing it based on frustration. The behavior, the frustration. I was frustrated. I was tired of working for other people. I was tired of this and I was tired of that. I was tired of having to answer to people. I was tired of not getting anywhere with my life. So that's why I started doing what I was doing. All right, cool. Guess what? The conversation that you just had, it has to keep that going in order for you to keep doing what you're doing. That means everything in your space is going to remain the same. That means you can go a year into your business and your business can be doing very, very well. Your company can be doing very, very well. Your works can be going very, very well. But the moment that you acknowledge that you are better, that's when the chaos is going to come in. Because that's when the chaos is going to come in. You're going to look at it as bad. Somebody stole from you in the company. Somebody stole from you. Your baby mother want more child support. Your baby father wants some child support now, or whatever it may be. Guess what? They are aspects within that behavior on that timeline that need to exist for you to keep saying what you're saying. Honoring your thoughts. Honoring your thoughts. Setting your mission statement outside of bias. Because that's how everything's working, and that's how everything works within your space. It's based on your behavior. Based on you maintaining a behavior. You maintaining that identity behind those behaviors. The conversations that you're not having. You in your space right now. You in a space right now where you having arguments with your kids about them not wanting to go to school or them not wanting to learn, but you completely forgot that they were created based on your behavioral timeline. So let's look back at that time when you didn't want to go to school, why you didn't want to go to school, what traumatic event, what happened to you around that same age and time that you ain't dealt with yet. Let's deal with that part yet. Let's deal with that part. Because that's the energy that they're feeding from. That's the energy that they have their ability to feed from. That's where they're feeding from. They're feeding from the same emotional timeline and finding their behaviors or their identity based on what you aren't dealing with. So someone hit me in my inbox the other day and they were like, but you don't understand, man, it's hard, da 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 da. I got kids. I was like, the spirit hit me immediately, like, your kids are older than you. Your kids are older than you. Lady, the lady, what do you mean my kids are older than me? I had my kids and then it was Trigger City. It was Trigger City. Trigger City. She hitting through. My kids is I'm da da da. She said she didn't even realize what she was saying. She was like, I'm grown and da 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 da. Ain't no one here for the kids but me and all this. I was like, I was like, calm down, calm down, calm down. I was like, I want you to understand something. I want you to take this thought into your mind. How much of what I want you to think about what you said. I want you to recall everything you said after we get done with this conversation. And I want you to recall, I want you really to sit down with yourself and who do you sound like as you said everything that you said? Gave her a couple days. She came back. She was like, I sound like my mother. I was like, congratulations. We can start your work now. Set her up for a consultation. But that mindset which you're going into, when you're reacting based on a behavior. So everything outside, everything in your space is feeding on that behavior. That's why when I went back and like I tell people like, nigga, I don't celebrate my death day the way I celebrate my death day. Like this year on my death day, that was on the 16th of February, the one thing that I did, I was like, I created a promo code and I was like, yo, go buy yourself something nice in honor of my death day. I'm no longer in a space to where I'm in a space now where everything that I do is based in my building. I've accepted that I am building. Yes. Your kids, everybody down here has they have their own lesson plans. They got their own lesson plans. They got their shit that they gonna teach. They got the shit that they gotta learn down here. That everybody got their stuff down here that they gotta learn. Once you understand that everything down here works for you in the way that it works for you, it works for us, that's when it's gonna change. That's when you can change. That's when you actually gonna start becoming vulnerable because you're no longer gonna face things like a death day when you were born, when you were born, you actually died. When you came through and you became the physical body, you died. That was your death day. When you came into this space, that's your death day. That you died. You came here in the physical realm. You came into the physical realm, you're dead. Until you wake yourself back up. You go through the process of waking yourself back up, integrating with your shadow, doing that shadow work, doing basically what we're explaining now. You acknowledge your behaviors, you look back at your past lives, and you're coming back here. So now you wake up. That's why that saying when they let the dead lay with the dead. Everything that I do, we living over here. Everything that I do, we living over here. There's no more existing. So my death day, which was the 16th of this month, 16th of February, was actually the end of a cycle for me. In the numerology, you add your name, you add the numbers together, and boom, you get your, you know where you at where you at on your path, and you know if you're behind or you're ahead. But yeah, your death day, that's your birthday, your born day, your solar return, all of those aspects. The reason that I use death day and I stay so cool with death day is because by the 16th of February, I have a long list of things that I've killed off up to that point. When you're celebrating your birthday, remember everything has a purpose. When you're celebrating your birthday, what are you celebrating? In order for me to live, I must first die. In order for me to live, I must die. In order for me to understand and tap into my knowledge and tap into the higher aspects of myself, I must step through that gateway or doth or the doorway of death. So I give honor to my death. Because in my death, that's when I know that I am now going to learn. That's that aspect of that. But your behavior, your reaction without a plan, your whole life was a damn distraction. Mm-hmm. I had to accept for myself my entire life was a damn distraction. My entire life was a fucking distraction. Why was it a distraction? Because none of it was not all of it was all of it was predestined. All of it was based on a predestination. After I became 18, after when I turned 18, basically my whole damn life was a fucking distraction. Distracting me from getting to myself. The longer that I stay behaving a certain way, the longer that I stay within this predestination or this path. So I really couldn't tap into anything. I really couldn't own anything. These are the things that we got to understand when you're talking about ownership. When we're talking about ownership, we got to understand that everything outside of you becoming an asset to yourself is a byproduct of you owning yourself. Similar to we can break it down based on your DNA, based on the dark molecule and all of these factors. You can put that into that space. Your DNA is your emotional behaviors. When you act one way, certain strands of your DNA shut off, and when you move into another sequence, I've explained it before in the previous lecture. When you go into another sequence, certain aspects of you shut off. Certain emotional characters in that helix of your sequence start to shut the fuck off. That's why when you start addressing your behaviors and then you do it into the example of you decide to detox, you decide to go plant-based for a little bit, and they say when you go plant-based, after about 3 months, your DNA switches. Everything, shit that was shut off, turns on. That's why the sickness goes away and all of these other aspects. The key to identifying it, and the reason that most motherfuckers will fall off, or you get stuck in that space, or you still start getting sick, because you're not addressing the shit that you were turning off. Those were emotional those are the emotional blockages. Those are the emotional pathogens are based on how you acted. That was everything that was in your timeline. Everything is synonymous. Your DNA, everything is into the synonymous same algorithm. Once you simplify the formula to yourself, then you understand, you unlock everything. Embrace your pace. That's what I talked about before, embracing your pace. You understand when you really embracing your pace. Once you understand taking accountability and responsibility to yourself, once you start taking that shit deep within, you realize that I have no time to be distracted. That doesn't mean that I'm not aware of what's going on, because in my awareness, I can see my triggers, whatever triggers me, whatever makes me act a certain way, feel a certain type of way, and knowing what I got to work on. So I'm not saying I'm not aware of it, but that's all that is me being aware. Like me sitting here, like someone sitting here getting upset about, oh my God, little kids are missing all over the world. They keep stealing little kids and all of this shit. Meanwhile, your inner child has been lost in the shadow realm for God knows how long. Instead of reacting, learn how to respond and assess yourself. That's what everything down here is to make you do. It's forcing you to assess yourself. If you're stuck in a certain behavior, then certain things are going to come to you inside of that space. If you're acting out a certain way, you're going to be waiting for certain things to keep you acting that certain way. That's why I don't open up to people, because every time I open up to people, they want to use it to hurt me. No. What energy did you put into that conversation? What emotion did you put into that conversation? When you told When you told old buddy that you've been hurt before a million fucking times, you've been hurt, you've been cheated on, your baby father went upside your head, what energy underlined inside of that conversation? Were you telling him that in confidence were you saying that in confidence, meaning that means you wanted to become open up with yourself? Ashe. That means you wanted to become open with yourself so you can learn it? Or did you say it through an aspect of, or were you speaking it through that rejection wound? You felt like if you didn't tell him this, or if you didn't say it now, because here's goes that key. A lot of times we put ourselves into a space with ourselves where we'll say some shit like, because I'm gonna give an example. You tell a story to somebody about your life. Shit that you've been through. You tell somebody shit that tell somebody shit that I've been through. In my mind, I was being vulnerable. Even though I was only projecting through an emotional attachment. So now I'm speaking through an emotional attachment. So now, this is how you understand when you're really being vulnerable, opening up to yourself. Now, if they bring that back up, or they bring up an instance, whether it deals with that directly or indirectly, and we have that conversation, and I shut down, when I shut down, whenever I come back to the statement, I'm going to be dismissive by stating what I already said. I told you that my mom did this and I've been through this in my life, so I'm really not up to being open like that. So why would you even ask that question? Why you keep trying to push me? That's what the fuck they're there for. You went into that space based on, in their mind, was vulnerability. You went into that space you went into that space in a different disguise of thought process. That's why you keep getting triggered by it, because that's what that space was meant for. So now they start doing the same thing back to your ass. See, that's why I'll be opening up to people, because every time I open up to a sister, she gonna do this, this, and this. That's why I'm gonna go. Now, in order for you to stay comfortable, you're gonna remove further and further away from the aspect, or the truer aspect that's supposed to help you submit to your soul. Yeah, intention is good. Like, I'm at a point right now where it's like, to remove bias in the aspect, I know what my intentions are. My intentions from a confident space are to heal, are to be the healer, are to grow, is to build, is to advance. That's my intentions in every space that I go into, whether it's a friendship, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a job, whatever it is. My intentions are to always grow, always to expand, always to remain uncomfortable, always to accept the challenge. My intention. Someone can come into my space and they may not have those same intentions. The force of you being direct with your intentions sets the tone. Stop waiting for others to be direct with their intentions to you. Set your direct intentions inside of the space. That means when you go into that friendship, that relationship, whatever it may be, set your intentions. Even when it comes to your job, LLC mentality is ownership. That's what it means. Even if you're going into a job, set your intentions when you go into the job. Stop trying to tell the job what the fuck they want to hear so you can get the job. Because you're going to dismiss, or you got used to dismissing the truth of yourself in order to get something. You did that shit over and over and over and over again. So now that you in this space where it comes into the shadow realm, where everything down here, everything in the shadow realm is you, whatever you took into the shadow realm is what you have to deal with. That means it not only whatever you taking into the shadow realm, is not only you based on your behaviors, but you got to remember those behaviors are based on an emotional timeline. So when you're acknowledging your shadow, when you're acknowledging your dark aspects in the deep intent, this is when you're dealing with the entire lineage, your entire family. The same way that you're gonna come up to a space, you're gonna come up to a space dealing with an issue with your mother, some maternal wounds, and you're gonna be in that space. You're gonna feel shit that you're gonna feel that's not. You're gonna feel emotions that are not necessarily yours. Those are your mother's emotions. Those are your mother's emotions. Those are your grandmother's emotions. Those are your great great grandmother's emotions. That's your great 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 aunt emotions. Those are every one of those emotions that that became the conduit to that behavior of you right now. That's why you can sit so strongly. I stand strong behind how I act. I stand the same way when you say my ancestors stand behind me, your ancestors being your DNA, your ancestors being every molecule that's inside of your body. Remember, we just broke down that DNA aspect, that sequence. It's once you start addressing it, the DNA changes. That's why your mindset starts to change. That's why when you get stuck within one aspect of behavior, i.e., you get stuck within, okay, I'm black now. Okay, now I'm black and I'm a Moor now. Okay, I'm black, I'm a Moor, I'm a Mason, and you're whatever you are now, you're stifling your behavior into those spaces. What are you really opening up? I watched the Bobby Hemming lecture the other day, and I rewatched. He was like, "Why? Why would I put myself into that catalyst of thought process? I am the original. Okay, I am the original. I am a god. Okay, I am a titan. I am ancient. I'm older than all of this shit. All this shit is me. Now that I've accepted all of this shit is me, now I'm acknowledging that the behaviors of everything inside of my space, that's what I'm taking ownership of. When you get stuck in that good or bad, I can never do that, I never do this, we're nothing like the white man and all of that shit, you're denying the behaviors that are of your creation. You're denying the behaviors that are correspondence of your emotional traumas, your emotional events, all of the emotional events that came up to you. That's why your path is the way that it is. The longer that you avoid doing your work, the longer that you're going to be sitting here and that, man, but I didn't want, nah. That's what this work is for. When I acknowledged my lineages, the lineage, when I acknowledged the timeline, the emotional timeline, when I acknowledged my behaviors, and I started knocking back and pulling back these layers of my behaviors, there was so many different aspects that I didn't even understand were there and why they were there. I never understood. Like, I was like, I could find things for them, but if I was trying to remain comfortable or dismiss it, I could easily be like, I'm going to go look at the Willie Lynch letter, and you see how evil they are. They did the Willie Lynch letter. I could go to the next level and be like, whether this nigga was a real person or not, none of that shit mattered. That was my first piece of information to understanding the behavioral complex that was created based in my emotions. That was my first piece of information to let me understand the behavioral complexes based in my emotions. As long as I acted these ways, it corresponded with the emotion that I was stuck under. So as long as I acted out, as long as I was bucking against things, as long as I maintained these cognitive biases, I never could address my emotions. So I never could submit to the attributes of the ideal and learn myself in everything. So if I don't learn myself in everything, if I don't heal myself in every aspect, then it don't matter what the fuck I do in my now, as I define my now, as I define where I'm at. Because I will always have a reason to have something to be attached to me. I will always have a reason for somebody. I will always have a reason to hide. I will always have a reason to not say certain things, not do certain things, not react a certain way until I address these aspects. The longer that you don't address them, the more that they solidify in the anchors. That's the epitome of an anchor. The longer you avoid it, the more that it settles down. It settles, and then it creates it creates this anchor that is your behavior. So now that's on your timeline. That's your karmic debt. Now you got karmic debt on. Now you got this karmic. You got this karmic debt over here. You got this karmic debt over here. You got this karmic debt over here. You got this karmic debt on your timeline. All of these is based in your behavior, all up and down your timeline. So now you got all this lined up on your timeline. So now, remember how I talked about a lot of people are actually stuck in the time, whatever happened to you when you were 12, 13, 14, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I'm not just talking about the traumatic event. The first time somebody told you no, the first time someone gave you a puppy and then your puppy died, all of them little aspects. Whatever happened back then, if you didn't know how to deal with it, that's the main key of acknowledging. I didn't know how to deal with it at that point in time because I'm not where I'm at now. The information that I have now is to help me deal with what I need to deal with then. This is why most motherfuckers will sit there and you awake and now you want to keep going forward. You ain't go back yet. You got to go deal with that shit first. You got to go personalize and simplify that into those spaces. I told the story about the first time my mom told me no. I told the story about how first time my mother told me no. First time mom told me no. And I was sitting there in that space and my mom told me no, I couldn't have no cookies before I went to bed. Later on that night, I went to go get my damn cookies. When I'm walking back, as I'm walking down the hallway, I'm listening to my mom and my pops arguing, talking about my mom ran up a whole fucking ticket on fucking JC Penney's for shit for Christmas. That's implanted in my mind. I ate my cookies, so I had a sugar rush. This is the craziest part when you start breaking down the synthesis. So I had my sugar rush, so I'm sitting there going to sleep, and that information is in my mind before I go to bed. So now that's it. Later on down the line, Christmas time come, we all down the hallway, we all opening up our gifts and all excited like, yay. I'm looking at my pop's face. I'm looking at my mom's face. My mom got a broken smile on her face because she's all happy that she's able to do something. My pop's got this half smile on his face. And I'm sitting there looking like, should I open my gifts? In the back of my mind, I'm like 6 years old. I'm like, should I open my gifts knowing where these gifts came from? Should I open the gifts? I'm kind of scared to open my gifts. Because if I open my gifts, like it might lead to this, and this. I unchallenged that thought process, went forward. Around age 13, around 13, 14. I was about to turn 14. First argument with my mother. First argument with my mom's. She was like, as long as you in this house and I'm paying all the bills and all this, and this, that same, I'm grown and all this. When you get my first initial response was to shoot at my mother and be like, you don't pay the bills, dad pay the bills. Dad pay the bills. He worked, you don't work. And I just reacted. My mother shut down. My mom shut down. For the next 2.5 weeks, if I had My mom went to the grocery store. I love Capri Sun. Mom got me a whole case of Capri Suns. Whatever snacks I wanted, I got whatever snacks that I wanted. Got everything that I wanted based on that behavior, based on that first account that I opened. Every time that you react into a space, every time that you react within a space, you open up an account. Every time you react with that behavior, your behavior being like the equivalent to your debit card, you acknowledge you open up an account. How you maintain that account is based on the emotions that you are using to feed that account. So so in that space, me not having no emotional literacy of understanding what hurt looks like, hurting somebody, shutting somebody down, saying things to that narrative, putting myself into that space, I just kept repeating that same narrative. I just kept repeating that same damn narrative over and over and over again until that became my behavior. So now I'm stuck in the time. So now I'm stuck in this time loop of only reacting that way. But now it's grown. So now everything in my space, if it come at me a certain way, whether directly that way or indirectly, in challenging me, I'm sitting in that space and I keep reacting that same damn way. Who's to blame? Who's to blame? Was it me over here? Was it my mom and pop being too loud when they were having that argument? Or was it me for waking up at the middle of the night trying to go sneak and get some damn cookies? Who's to blame? This is you taking ownership. Until I took ownership of that, until I went back through my past life regression and seen how I've done that before, been in that space before, I couldn't go forward. That was something inside of my space that I had to address. That's a memory that I had to address. One second while I get my bottle of water. That was an aspect that I had to address within myself. There was nobody to blame. There was nobody to blame for that shit other than me. I set that tone. I set that up. Even though the other emotional catalyst, not knowing my father, losing so many people, yeah, I should have stayed in bed. I should have, if I stayed in bed, I wouldn't have had to deal with that. But that's the beautiful key to it, is like, if I stayed in bed, I wouldn't have had to deal with that. But the reason that I didn't stay in bed is because I needed to deal with that. I needed that to happen. That was part of my contract. I needed that event to happen so I could work on it. If you didn't have to do any of your work, what would be the purpose of you being? What would be your true purpose? Who you're getting back to is the person before all of that shit happened. You're creating the space for that person to happen. That's you awakening. That's you becoming enlightened. That's you, every time that you get triggered, that's the light going off. That's a dark space that's being opened up inside of yourself. So Carrie, take that same thought process and narrative into your mind. And if I need to learn my behaviors, if I need to learn behavior without me necessarily going through the extreme part of the behavior, what would I create, i.e., the white man, yellow man, red man, brown man? What would I create? What did I create that for? This is when you start going back to that process. You created everything down here and it had a purpose. the more emotion, the slower your energy became as you cycled down here. Your emotions became those behaviors. So that you defined it as a behavior. They act in a certain way only because it is. Money gonna change them. This gonna do this. No, it isn't. It just shows them the true them. Niggas don't change because of money. Their true aspects come out. Niggas ain't changing over pussy. They true aspects are coming out. Your homegirl ain't changed over no damn dick. Her true aspects came out. She was looking for an escape, a reason to get away. She was looking for another thing to subsequent the urge. The same way that you'll do the same fucking shit. When I got out of my urges, when I got my urges under control, when I embraced my urges and understood my urges were based in my behaviors, urges didn't affect me no more. The way the things that kept me behaving a certain way, because it's only based on the behavior to make you act a certain way. I remember this some crazy ass shit. That's crazy ass things that you really don't think about. I remember. I think I moved to Tennessee. I moved to Tennessee back. Yeah, I moved to Tennessee. I remember I was working at my first restaurant. I remember the dudes were standing online and like they were having a conversation. I wanted to come into the conversation. And they were like, yo, man, I gotta go, man, yo, when we go out tonight, yo, we got it. Yo, we all gonna get some pussy tonight. And then I was just standing there. I wasn't paying attention. And then my homeboy at the time, my homeboy Corey, he was like, yo, Los, when the last time you got some pussy? I was like, it's been about 4 years. He was like, nigga, damn, 4 years? I see why your ass is so strong. I'm like, what? Till that, I was like, what? I see why your ass so damn strong and so fast and always doing all this stuff. I see why you doing all of this stuff. I see why you moving so fast. So you sitting there in that space with yourself of that thought process with your mindset, and you like, wait, so releasing, I didn't understand at that time, so I can think about it now. I was like, releasing my energy in an undisciplined sense weakens me. That's what an urge is. An urge is to release energy that you're not used to. You don't understand how to count. You don't understand the complex of how to cultivate your own energy. So you feel this need to release your damn energy all the time. But that's based on the mood. So like going to the aspect, I made that post. Bitches walking around here with like, ooh, I got that wet. Okay, cool. Nigga, my pull-out game week, whatever. Okay, cool. Every time you dumping off in somebody, every time you talking about you got some wet ass pussy, and that's your staple, that's your identity. Every time that your ass come, every time that you release, those are the tears that's the tears of your inner child coming out. Think about it that way. Those are the tears of your inner child coming out, getting some attention. That's all of that trick that you learned is a trauma response. You just saying this, that it's a trauma response to yourself. Be real, be honest with yourself. Deal with you. Stop trying to rush stop trying to rush to find when the key is to create. Tears of the inner child. Tears of the inner child. That new trick that you learn, or that trick that every time your man or your chick, your lady walk up, be like, damn, where'd you learn that from? Or your girl, your dude, like, ooh, where'd you learn that from? It's a goddamn trauma response. What the hell happened to you back in the day? that made you respond, that you use that as a response or a reaction point to feed inside of that space, to feed that narrative. I remember being in a relationship with a chick and she was hurt. I remember being in a relationship and I remember like she broke down to me. She was like, when I was, she was like 13 or 14, 13 or 14, like some dude played in her butt. Her mom didn't believe her and all this shit. Her mom was still, here's the trick. Her mom reacted to her daughter saying to her, speaking to her from the point of time where her mom, she was still reacting from the same point of hurt. This is how you start realizing these kids. So like when she came to me and we had this conversation, she had this thing for like, she wanted to try anal sex. It was a trauma response. It was her trying, in her mind, her exact words were like, I want to overcome this trauma. I want to overcome this trauma. I didn't know what the fuck we were doing. She didn't know what the fuck she was doing. All right, cool. I guess that's what you want to do. Sure. Like, if that's going to help you overcome your fear, all right, cool. Guess what it didn't do? It created a trauma bond. It solidified the trauma bond. It solidified the trauma bond. Because now that I did it to her, all of the emotions that were fed into that space for that behavior to happen created a trauma bond. After that, the relationship was trash. Relationship was horrible. Assumptions and anger and yelling back and forth. All of her shit came to the surface. All of her shit came to the surface. All of her shit came to the surface. All of my shit came to the surface. Because we created a bond that was based within trauma. A lot of us get stuck in these spaces with ourselves, friendships, relationships. Your job is a trauma response. Your job is a trauma response. If you're not understanding the elements of what your job is there for, my job was a trauma response. Until I understood what my job symbolized, I kept repeating next job. Oh, okay, I'm in the next job. I'm in the next job. I got the next job. I'm doing the next job. All my jobs were the damn same. In my distraction or dismissing aspect was experience. Because every time I went to the next job, I said the same exact fucking shit. I was like, yo, I learned this at my other job. I did this at my other job. I did this at my other job. Yes. All fantasies, it depends. Okay, there's levels to it. In your lower aspects of you trying to get off, in your lower aspects of you trying to deal with, because you're naturally trying to deal with the trauma regardless. Your mindset is naturally trying to deal with it regardless. Your brain's trying to create the scenarios to deal and to bring the trauma to the forefront at all times. So fantasies from shorties wanting to be choked, shorties wanting to have spit in their mouth, BDSM, all of these aspects, when coming from an unhealed state based on avoidance, that fantasy is a trauma response. Shorty want to get choked and call you daddy. It's a trauma response. Niggas wanting to get pegged. It's a trauma response. It's something buried deep within there that comes to the surface in that space of because it's exploration. But once you master it, because it's triggering, it's triggering something. It's triggering something. It's triggering energy. But if you go into the space based in the trauma or the attachment, then of course you're gonna be addicted to that now. Now I need every chick to put their finger in my ass. Now I need every nigga to spit on me. Now I need, and you have to understand for yourself is like, yo, am I responding to my trauma with this event? Is she responding to her trauma with this event? She keep calling me daddy. Is that daddy? She called me daddy all the fucking time. I'm thinking it's cool because hell yeah, man. She said because now in your mind, the reason that she calling you daddy is because in your mind, the aspects of the discipline that you received from your father of you thinking that, okay, daddy means in charge. Don't feel bad. Don't feel bad. Bro, don't feel bad. Define what you're using it for. You don't have to feel bad about anything. You ain't got to feel bad about it. Define what you're using it for. That all you got to do is define what you're using it for. That's all you got to do is define what you're using it for. But yeah, there's a lot of trauma responses out here based on keeping you in that behavior to make you feel comfortable. That emotional attachment. Like I put that post up with the let me out, please don't me out, please just let me out. This is not a dance. The Rick and Morty song, that joint. How many times? Like when I was going to strip clubs heavily, my difference of going to strip club, yeah, it's okay. We healing. You healing. You healing. You healing. You healing. As long as you acknowledge it and accept it and forgive yourself for not knowing, and now that you know, now you go forward. But like when I was going to strip clubs at first, was paying for college because every stripper needed X pills back in between 2001 to 2003, 2004. If you went to a strip club and the stripper was extra freaky deaky and you was in Atlanta or you were in New York or you were in Florida, New York, Atlanta, and some parts of Vegas and a little bit of LA, thank me, because I probably sold them X pills. My family was probably one that gave them their drugs for them to give you that amazing lap dance that you had they gave you to give you that amazing lap dance. You're welcome. But when I stopped going to the strip club, when I was going to the strip club after that, even when I was going to the strip club then, I never spent money in a strip club. Most of the times, strippers were bringing me drinks because they had that little private area. Like some strip clubs had like a deck in the back where they would all go sit in between dances. I'm back there psychoanalyzing strippers. Strippers are going to go do dances and then coming out there and giving me drinks. Yes. You putting yourself in this space with yourself. What are you doing? Everything has a purpose. You got to remove that good and bad filter. When I'm going in, it's like, so when I told motherfucking stories about I'm going to the strip clubs, the reason I was going to the strip clubs, it didn't equate to everybody else's reason going to the strip club. I was always in my purpose unconsciously. 90 times out of 10, you always in your purpose. You always doing what you're supposed to be doing unconsciously. It's that one event that you keep repeating that don't bring you, it's not bringing you anything that you haven't defined yet. That's that seed. But going into this space with ourselves with these trauma events and understanding exactly how many things around us are based in trauma, the behavior has been created. The behavior has been created. You go on Pornhub right now. There's the category of stepdaddy with stepdaughter, stepmom with stepbrother, aunt fucking the dog, aunt fucking her step cousin, step nephew, and all that shit's there. All that shit's up there. It's there, and you like wait. And then I understood. I was like, oh shit, wait. The only way for me to capitalize on my energy, the only way for me to capitalize is to understand that everything down here that I sit here and I'm going against, because we've all said that shit, we've all made that post. If we haven't made that post, we like that post. Everybody was like the Black Lives Matter shit, and then it had George Soros was behind it. Behind Black Lives Matter with some Jews. Ah! I watched a couple of them shits too. It's all right. I watched a couple of them shits too. You be like, wow, like, this is really a thing. And that's really a thing. But you looking at this aspect for yourself. So I'm looking like, damn, wait. George Soros, Jew behind Black Lives Matter. Instead of me getting triggered by that, I remember listening to a Bobby Hemmett lecture and then go do the research, and they were like, Jews are behind Martin Luther King. I was like, oh shit, wow, that's some in-depth shit. Because when you think about the basis of behavior, everything that you did down here, I'm gonna give you this main key. You created the handicap. You put yourself into the position that you're in. The behavior that get created through the emotional aspects to be the emotional stimulation for you to actually understand the balances of yourself, you created that. Nothing else created anything outside of you but you. So you can argue back and forth based on biases, and you can sit there and be like, they sold us into slavery. I bet. But there's text talking about the niggas that they sold into slavery didn't have a home. So they got rid of them niggas so they can keep their shit. In that same, I think about that same instance to myself is like, how many motherfuckers was at your fucking crib that you threw under the bus when them niggas, you just repeating these cycles. A lot of these cycles that we're repeating, we're not understanding the dynamics. Like the reason that you ain't got no man, the reason you can't find a good woman, it's not because niggas ain't shit and bitches ain't shit. Somewhere down your emotional timeline, your grandmother did some shit to somebody, and then ever since then, that's been the outlook for your entire family. Your grandfather, your great-great-grandfather did some shit. My question is, do we face these dark fantasies via our imagination instead of bringing them into the forefront of our relationships? You can do both. 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 That's the beauty of sex magic. That's the beauty. That's the whole point behind sex magic is to take your dark fantasies and scenarios, program them to mean something into a meaning of your mind. That means you defeated. Remember, we defeated in our heads, and then bring it into the real world to see how it works. to see how it works. Let's see how it works. Let's see if, because it's all about pushing into your authenticity. When you bring it into the physical realm, is it authentically you? Are you submitting to learn something through that space? That's your key. I got dark, twisted fantasies in my head all the fucking time that I play out. 80% of them stay up. No, 90% of them stay up there. 10% of them are in the thought, they're in that think space. And about the other 5%, they might come out and I might use them. It's all in based into your usage. But that aspect of those cycles, that shit works. That shit works. I'm gonna give y'all one. The next time you take a shower, nope. The next time you take a shower, take it in the dark. Go grab yourself some black candles. You can grab the little black small candles. You can get the little small black. Matter of fact, oh shit! I never lit my candle. Ladies and gentlemen, this is me on a candle. These are my sigils that are programmed for my candle. I'm gonna light my candle now. Because I forgot to light this bitch. Well, we gonna light it and we gonna let it, it's gonna be with us tonight. You can get yourself these little small candles like this. Get a candle like this. Get a candle like this. Get the little holders like this. And if you, depending on how your shower is, if you want to take a bath or whatever, if you want a powerful ass bath, hit me up because I do the invoking baths. I do the invoke energy. I do the energy baths. You want to work with it? If a specific energy is you want to work with a specific energy, holla at me. I do the baths like that. Get yourself some of these right here. Line them shits up. Like for instance, the way my shower set up, I got this little lip that's up at the top. I put a black candle in that corner, black candle in that corner, black candle. I put a black candle in the corners. Turn the lights off. Start taking my shower. The amount of energy that based in my programming for myself, the way that I felt as I'm taking my shower, the intensity of my shower, the energy of my shower that I invoked into that space. Yeah, we see you jumping. The amount of energy that I invoked into that space, it was all based into that programming. That's that shower meditation. You can go into the shower and you can just sit there in the shower and let the water run on your fucking head and say, nigga, I'm washing away all this bullshit. Everything that you say that you washing away, those are the things that you address. Whatever comes to your mind that you say you washing away and you getting rid of, guess what you get to do? Now you got to address it. That's the key. That's the responsibility. Taking accountability or setting up that account for yourself or taking it into account of the things that you need to deal with, the next key is going to be the responsibility of you dealing with it. Until you define that bridge, that part of the formula, you can't come out to the other end and make the equal part. That's what happens a lot of times with ourselves, when it comes to our work, when we'll sit there and say to ourselves, yo, I'm really going to deal with this and I really need to take responsibility about this. Yes, is that work? You really have to do the work. You just can't keep dismissing when it comes up because you called for that. You called that forth from the darkness. You called it forth from the darkness. You want to know why you can't keep a man? You want to know why you can't keep a woman? And you can't keep somebody? Your friendships keep going to shit. But every time that it happens, either your mother calls you, your sister calls you, a cousin calls you, somebody from the family calls you. Every time you sitting there saying, why can't I keep a man in my life? Why can't I keep my life straight? Why can't I make any money? Guess what? Guess what? The first person that called you is the distraction. The first person that called you is the distraction. That's your delivery from the universe. That's your delivery from the universe. That's the lesson that it's time for you to learn. Every time you sit there and say, why do I keep behaving the way that I'm behaving? Why do you keep behaving the way you behaving? Or you stuck on some shit, and then you turn on the news and you see a little kid, you see a little boy get shot, or a little girl get shot. That's your ancestors telling you that's your ancestors telling you you need to kill the bullshit and deal with your inner child. Every time you see a woman get shot on the fucking news and you feeling some type of way, and you, oh my God, she was a mother, guess what? It's time to deal with your mother issues. That's what that shit's meant for. Let it work for you. I swear to you, when you start dealing with those eternal issues, that shit don't phase you no more. That shit don't even phase you no more. I now understand what Bobby Hemmett meant with, like, nigga, they only going to where the fuck we trying to go. And then I remember he went even further. He was like, they're only going to where we're trying to go. And better yet, they're going to get stuck. They're going to get stuck in the space before they're going to get stuck in the space that's before we need to go. So them being released, that's the way to release the fucking energy. But you sitting there like, nah, say her name. Okay, why you say her name for it? So she can be released? Say her name in remembrance? Did you even know the bitch? Did you even know her? Did you really know her? Other than her family, did you really know her? Did you go get some information? Did you go check out Wikipedia on this person? The same way that you want to go grab a book, the same way you want to go grab a book and go study gods and all these different entities and energies, is the same way you go study Sandra Bland. Go look at her Wikipedia page. What were her likes? What were her dislikes? If you really that serious about it, put the bitch on your altar. Work with the energy. She represents an energy. They represent an energy being released. Niggas talking about DMX. Nigga, I had Ampu on my I got Anubis sitting on my fucking altar. He been on my fucking altar. So when that shit happened, I was like, all right, cool. So that week when that happened, and then I was in flight school rewiring my brain due to an acid trip, beautiful trip of rewiring my brain. All of a sudden, I'm sitting here feeling like this heavy ass energy. I'm like, these niggas is pulling this energy down. Why do I feel this shit? I remember going for a walk, talking to DMX talking to Earl Simmons the entire time. They were like, yo, they just got to do what they need to say themselves. Then niggas said, y'all need to say yourselves. Y'all need to take my lessons of what I said. You got to go through your struggle and define your pain and make that shit work for yourself. That nigga whole fucking message within 15 minutes of a 15-minute walk. What are you going to do now? That nigga going, all right, cool, what you going to do now? Most motherfuckers are still upset that they didn't give Malcolm X his own day. Nigga, give the nigga his own day yourself. Understand what Malcolm X was. That nigga was a Martian, red hair, nigga was a Martian. Go grab yourself one of them little niggas from Mars Attacks, or go grab yourself go to fucking what is that shit? Go get yourself a candle. Go get a red fucking candle. Go grab that nigga's picture. Make it a stencil. Put it on the front of a candle. Work with the fucking energy. There's no excuse for you not to do your fucking work. There's no excuse for you not to do this internal work. What did it mean to you? Stop trying to find the collective and create the collective and tap into the collective that is yourself. As you tap into this collective that is, as I tapped into the collective that is Papa Lucifer, as I tapped into the energy that is Papa Lucifer Samdi, as I tapped into this energy, the collective of this energy, as I understood what it meant to tap into my energy, to do that to do this internal work, everything else was a fucking excuse and a distraction. I could easily, because it happened. I remember when the protesting and the marching for George Floyd was going on. Up the street from my fucking house, niggas was standing out there with poster boards. Hell, every other Thursday, when I'm on the way to the gym, when I'm on the way back, there's an old lady standing on the corner with her hand out like this, saying, "We won't forget." I drive by, I'm like, all right, then. Cool. Are you really doing your work? You've been doing your work. Simple shit, like simple things. I've been doing my work. I tapped into my ethers. So everything that's into aspects of digital currency or energy into that mindset, when it came through, I wasn't ready to do it in the physical aspect because I wanted to build a base and a platform. I didn't get sucked, oh my God. But I had some killer ass conversations, breakdowns, understandings. So much information came through and I honored it. Not by sitting there like, nigga, let me go. No. I honored it by saying, okay, cool. That's what I'm working towards. It's okay for you to sit here and say, I'm working towards this. This is my goal. This is the path that I am on. I must work this path to get to that point. And you got to be open to it. Because until you open to it, you're always going to be faced with the distractions. Some of the oldest distractions that black people have had for fucking decades is, man, I would like to do stocks, but I got to have some money first. I would like to do this, but I got to have some money first. Nigga, there's like 75, there's like 4 or 5 different applications that you can apply that you can start investing with $1. So what's your excuse now? Man, that looked real dangerous. But you rather go to Atlantic City every other weekend, go try to plan a trip to Vegas every weekend, and spend more money in planning for the trip than you sitting in your house. Stop making excuses. You rather blame everything on your youngest child being the white man than you actually doing and then you actually doing your work. That's all it ever shows you. Every time I see somebody say something about the fucking vaccine, I'm like, wait, they must not be doing their work. Or that might be either it's one or two things. Like that's their purpose, what they're supposed to be doing, or they're not really doing their work. Spirit, what are they doing? They're not doing their work. All right, cool, leave them alone. If they're not doing their work, leave them motherfuckers alone. Stop sitting there going with motherfuckers that aren't doing the work, aren't tapping into them, aren't doing what they need to be doing. Stop trying to convert motherfuckers. Stop trying to find and convert and save people. Be the example. Become the example. As you become the example, it sets everything else up anyway. But you got to create something. That emotional attachment to have you I'm trying to save my people. That is an emotional attachment. Because the longer that I feel if I need to save my people and I provide, that's how I'm going to feed my energy into my space. It's going to feed my cause. That way I don't have to change. I don't have to grow. I can keep doing the same thing until I'm about 60 years old. And then I'm going to sit back and say, like, I'm going to leave it for, it wasn't for me to do it, brother. It was for the young soldiers. It was for the young warriors coming up. I'm here for the young warriors. No, you're not. You lost. It's okay. You lost. You turned that shit into a fundamental aspect of religion for yourself. You got comfortable in it. You got some nice ankhs. You got some nice crystals. You got some nice shit in your house, but you really ain't do shit with it. Is it the white man or is your father wasn't there? Is it Kevin Samuels or was it your father not being there? What is it really? Let's be honest with yourself. One of the biggest things that I'm here for is I want you to be honest with yourself. I'm scary honest with myself. Scary. Who is it? You'll put up 975 posts about Bill Gates. Okay. You'll put up a post about Bill Gates. This nigga created Microsoft, then created a virus to sell the antivirus. Okay, cool. That's that nigga's program. What are you learning from him? Nigga, I can create, I can destroy. Are you willing to create and destroy? Are you willing to destroy that old ass identity? Are you willing to affect that old? Are you willing to lay waste to the old identity of yourself? Are you willing to become unfamiliar to everybody that used to know you? They only knew you based on your behavior. Hell, they only can tap into you based on your behavior. They know you're going to react a certain way every fucking time on schedule. Guess what? Let's make them act this way. They ain't dealt with the emotions yet. They ain't got to the emotional part. They don't understand that their emotions is their emotions is their DNA. Yes, is it generate or destroy it. They don't understand that their emotions is their DNA. Oh shit. So it don't matter what the fuck we give them, they're not going to use it. Because they still feel that we owe them something. Just because you got the title does not mean that you are owed something. It's not about you getting something, because once you get it, what are you going to do with it? It's like every nigga got stimulus checks. There's niggas out here getting PPP loans, all this bullshit. Okay, cool. What are they using it for? You using it? If you're using it to build something, I commend you, hats off. But if you're using it just to simply catch up, let me catch up on these bills first. But every single financial expert that's in that field will tell you, do not pay off your collections. Don't pay off the debts. You can fix them shit. You can get them shits removed. So if every single financial advisor tells me the same thing about my debts and all of those aspects, secure and grow this way, that naturally knocks that out. That shit really don't fucking exist past a certain point. The thing that I learned about business credit is, based on your usage is how your shit goes up. Your personal credit, your human shit naturally degrades. Thank you. Your human shit degrades. It degenerates. Your personal credit, use your personal credit. It goes down. And you'll spend 19 fucking years for something you did back in 1996 trying to bring that shit back up. That's human shit. Business credit is based on your usage, trade lines, and all that good shit. Wait, you mean I can create an entity? Create an entity with its own numbers, and I can build with it? I can pay Carlos. I can pay Carlos to take care of that other bullshit, but I can keep building in my business entity based on ownership? Wait. So what you're trying to tell me is ownership is my key. Ownership has always been the key. But it's not based on this. We got to take ourselves out of this collective shit, because if none of us own anything, how the fuck can you build anything? If everybody in the circle is waiting on one person to buy something, then everybody jump onto that. Guess what? You work for that other you work for the other person. Yes, you're a partner, but you work for the motherfucker that started it, or the people that started it. But if we all can come to that table in this thought process with yourself, if we all come to this table based on ownership, that means we all can learn something and teach at the same time. We all actually can put in that work. You want to change narratives, you want to change, you want to grow, you want to groom, you want to change the narrative, you want to make shit different. All right, cool. But you're not ready for that. You got to do this shadow work first. You got to do the internal work first. Because if let's say, for example, I was like, everybody come to the table. All right, cool. Somebody gonna come to that table, 5 or 6 people. If 9 people come to the table, 6 out of that 9 people got some shit they got to deal with first. Six of them people ain't gonna go all the way. 6 of those people aren't gonna go all the way. Out of that 6 people, from that, the 3 people out of that 6 people ain't gonna go all the way. Out of those 3 people, 1 of them people are gonna stop and be like, well, man, I was trying to get my money now because of this, and this. That's an example of yourself. When you remove the identities, when you remove the layers, when you start getting into yourself, when you really start removing that shit, nigga, you are truly, there's no need to say that you're unapologetic. There's no need to say that you're in, the only reason that you get stuck in an identity is because you have not gained the confidence and then to create within that space. The only reason that most people get stuck within an identity is because you have not achieved the level of confidence that it takes for you to build within that space. You are a God. Okay, cool. What have you generated? What are you operating? And what are you willing to destroy? That's my first question to anybody that tells me that they're a God or a goddess. And God, we understand that's for both. What have you generated? What are you operating? What are you willing to destroy in order to go to the next level? I'm not into destroying shit. I'm into love and the light. Nigga, fuck that love and the light shit. It's not that love and the light. That love and light, that love and light is actually lust and projection. When I hear people talk about love and light, it's always lust and projection. Lusting and projection. Because they're either lusting for, I'm setting my boundaries and I'm not dealing with toxic people, or they're projecting you're projecting your own toxic traits into others. I ain't dealing with no energy vampires. I ain't dealing with no goddamn narcissist. You sound like a narcissist when you say you ain't dealing with narcissists. They're triggering you to learn something about yourself, sis. They're triggering you to learn something about yourself, bruh. But if you avoid it, you stay within the projection. You don't want to go deep into yourself. You don't want to deal with those demons you don't want to deal with them demons, them Damians, those aspects of yourself that you ain't understood yet. You talking about generational wealth. But generational wealth is before you even get to the byproduct, which is generational wealth, you got to have emotional literacy first. Because it don't matter how much wealth you ascertain, until your emotions are in balance, that wealth ain't going to be in balance. You always going to have a reason or an attachment. You're always going to need something outside of yourself to say, okay, yeah, that nigga wealthy. To say, ooh, that nigga wealthy. That nigga making money. That nigga. All right, cool. This that Pluto rising. This that submitting to your soul. This is actually submitting to you what your soul needs. This is actually dealing with your inner child. You mad about pedophilia. Meanwhile, you've been molesting your inner child for how many years now? Using it for your own gain, only bringing them out when you angry, only bringing them out when you feeling a certain behavior or emotion. Correspondence. You want to scream the law, but you don't know how to use it. Cause and effect. You want to scream the law, but you don't know how to use it. The law of gender, masculine and feminine. You want to scream that out, but you don't know how to use it. Masculine and feminine ain't got nothing to do with man and woman. Because we all got a masculine and feminine archetype. We're all androgynous. When you unify, you become androgynous. When you state, remember I said it last week, the precursor of saying that you're a god or a goddess is the precursor to, okay, cool, now it's time for me I'm acknowledging that I have masculine and a feminine aspect. I'm aware that I have a masculine and a feminine aspect. Now it's my responsibility to take into account to deal with my wounded masculine and my wounded feminine. That means I need to apologize and change my behavior from the biases of how I deal with the masculine and the feminine. Until then, I'm going to get triggered by everything that goes at the feminine, or I'm going to get triggered by everything that goes against the feminine. And I'm going to say, niggas like that, they don't tell niggas how to take accountability and responsibility. Boo-boo, it ain't for them. If it's triggering you, it's for you. It ain't for them. Once you learn it, once you simplify it, once you accept it, then, only then, can you say, okay, cool, this is what I've learned. This is my interpretation. This is what I gained from it. Maybe if you look at this, let's see what you gained from it. After you gain something from it, now we can have a conversation. Because until then, there is no talking. There's only assumption. Until you do the work internally, it's only going to be assumptions. Until you deal with the energy that you put into a conversation, it's always going to be an assumption involved. Have a whole conversation with your man, and then at the end of it, you gonna sit there and say, "Are you scared?" And this nigga was direct as fuck. You sitting there talking to your girl in the same fucking narrative. What are you scared of? Nigga, I said what I said. You ain't used to that. That's what they're there for. They're there to teach you direct. They're there to direct your masculine. They're there to guide your feminine aspect. They're there to help you deal with your emotion. That's what they're there for. But you want them there so you can keep doing the same behavior. Your behavior is your safe zone. That's why I only fuck with chicks. Like I had a homeboy. I had a homeboy that literally only fucks with chicks with kids. He only fucks with chicks with kids. I was like, yo, bro, why you only fuck with chicks with kids? He was like, they got other responsibilities. They low maintenance. All they want is somebody to play ball with. I'm like, wow, that's really how you do that? Like, yeah, that's why I do it for. Have some, have not. That's not me. Cool. That's what you do. You got to understand that there's motherfuckers down here in this space. There are programs in the space. You mad at your mother, but she's a program in the space. If you really do your work and you look down your timeline, you realize that that woman never existed. Only that woman, in that aspect of the definition of your mother, she never existed as a mother in any other time, in any other emotional timeline of your life. She never existed as a mother. It's only in this time that she exists as a mother. You mad because your father was never there. But if you look back at your emotional timeline, you realize that you never had you had multiple masculine you had multiple points in your works, in your timelines of your life to learn the masculine aspect, but you didn't. So guess what happened in this timeline? You didn't have a father. Therefore, you didn't have a masculine aspect. You denied it in all your other lives. This shit's deeper than just this is deeper than just you thinking this you got father issues in this life. Why? Something your grandmother did down the line did not took it out of your life in this point in time. You acknowledge that karmic debt, that behavior, then you'll understand why you in the space you in now. It's there for a reason. It didn't just happen to happen. It happened for a reason. You like, but nah, man, because my girl, man, and I loved her and she loved me and we used to do, that's nice. That's fine as dandy. My whole emotional aspect of my mindset to the way I build is different now. As before, it was a preset it was a predestination narrative to where if I stayed on that path, I wouldn't be in front of you right now. Correction, I wouldn't be in front of you the way that I'm in front of you right now. But I would be in front of you in some way, shape, or form. I could have been a rapper. Could have been a rapper, rapping my issues. I could have been a trapper, selling you dope. I could have been a doctor. I could have been a lot of other things based on that predestination complex. You're in the position that you need to be in for a reason. Until you take that accountability and start removing those layers, you'll never be able to achieve the process. That's why niggas keep going soulless. That's why you got so many motherfuckers down here that are soulless. Their spirit has left their body. Their spirit has left them. Their spirit has left all connection to them. This nigga ain't learning this time. I'ma let this nigga die. I'ma let this bitch die. She gonna have to repeat this shit. Her soul, she's not gathering the pieces of her soul. He's not gathering the pieces of his soul. He's not bringing them shits into unity. He's stuck on trying to make everybody else unified. She ain't understanding that until they're unified in themselves, nothing else is going to be unified. That's every fucking story of when you study the 12 tribes and all that bullshit. You study the 12 tribes and all of that shit. Them niggas weren't in unity. That's why they were separated. They all had different behaviors. It all is based in your behavior. Your behavior cements your emotions into that emotional timeline. When you address the behavior, you address your emotions. If I don't address my behaviors, I can't address my emotions. It's only going to be dismissal. I'm going to dismiss. I'm going to let it be dormant. I'm going to be like, I'll be this way for this person, that way for that person, and that way for that person. Staying in an attachment zone. So now when it's time for me to bring all my energy back, so when a motherfucker says, I want to go outside and call all my energy back to me, you don't understand what the fuck that means. Because if you call all of your energy back to you, and all of a sudden you get 900 phone calls on your fucking cell phone from 97 other fucking people, why all these people calling me? You just called all of your energy back to you. That bum-ass friend that you are living vicariously through, you know she a thought, you know he a hoe, you know whatever they are, it's time to call your energy back. Them finding themselves, this is how you understand why everything's in your space. Your space is your opportunity. You got that homegirl that every other month she got a new man. So she looking for her father, she looking for her dad and all these other niggas. Or she's trying to avoid the scars of her father and all these other niggas. What does that mean for you? What does that mean for you? Do you know what is your relationship with your father? That's why she's present. That's why she's present. Once you understand that, there's no need for her. She can now be removed. That conduit can be removed. Until you understand it, go ahead, cut her off physically. I'm tired of these bitches like that. The next relationship gonna come through, you gonna have a nigga with fucking father issues. Why I keep getting these niggas with father issues? Nigga, sis, that's what you need to learn. You keep avoiding your father issues. Why I keep getting these chicks that try to be my mother? Nigga, you got mother issues. That's the lesson you need to learn. The longer that you avoid it, you'll end up with a white person. The behavior aspect. See, white women know how to do this and they cater us, and white men know how to do this and they cater to me and all of this shit. They cater to your behavior. They cater to the behavior. They don't cater to the emotion. Because if they cater to the emotion, there would be no need for them. That's why everybody that come up in your space, that's why everybody that cater, that's why you sitting there and you can go back and forth all fucking day. We getting into all this today. That's why you can go back and forth all day when you talking about black women are the hardest women to deal with and all these bullshit ass fucking posts. Yeah, yeah. Yaqub, the Yaqub is the lowest aspect of your behavior. The Yaqub is the lowest part of your behavior. Your daughter brothers, the yoga is part of your behavior. The archons are nothing but your behaviors. The reptilians are nothing but your behaviors. Every time motherfuckers like, ooh, reptilians and all this shit, nigga, it's time for you to shed. Take what you need from it and use it. Niggas is so fucking, the earth is hollow and the earth, nigga, and if I am my earth, if I am my planet, if I am my world, if I am my universe, if I do not deal with my emotions eat me out in the inside, I become hollow. Ta-da! I now can interpret hollow earth. I now can interpret hollow earth. It don't matter if the earth is flat or round type shit. Like, okay, it's a projection of your thoughts and your feelings, your behaviors, your emotions. It's always going to go back to your behavior, your emotions, and how you deal with them. You don't deal with it, the catalyst or the correspondent outside of you, It's created, that framework, the matrix is created to keep you locked within that space until you do learn it. You master that shit, you ain't getting stuck in anything. You ain't worried about this worldly shit. Everything else is naturally gonna fall into fucking place. Nigga, I'm like, nigga, I ain't dealing with that shit. Because if I deal with that, then what does that mean about my people? Nigga, they weren't your people in the first place. You got one or two choices in this shit. You're either going to heal or you're going to evolve. Everything outside of you is you. It's your ego right there in your face. You keep going into the same relationship. It's your ego right there in your face. I'm only you. I'm only you. If you're still stuck within the attachment aspect, then you're going to follow it because it's doing something that you have not gained the competency yet into doing it to yourself. It's only a vessel. It's only a vessel showing you how to operate. Submit to the attributes of the ideal. Submit to the attributes of the ideal. Stop looking for it to be what you need it to be and accept it for what it is. Stop looking for it to be what you want it to be, what you need it to be, and accept it for what it is. When I started accepting things for what it is, Baba Dick Gregory coming through on that. Once I accepted my glasses and I accepted the rules of my glasses, nigga, it was over. So don't try to tell. I can't force anybody. I can't force nobody. I can't take them off. So I can't force anybody. That means there's no saving anybody. I can't take them off, which means I must honor the thoughts and create based on what I see. And I got to take full accountability for my action. I got to take full accountability. Check, check, check. I can do it. Cool. I'm going to do it. Putting them glasses on changed my whole fucking life. From that, I always go into that page. The podcast has been created. The YouTube channel has been created. The platform to provide healing, provide the healing, provide the teaching, provide all of that's been created. Oh, nigga, that's my purpose. Oh, shit. But I can't do that through the old narrative. You ain't going to be able to do anything that you desire through that old narrative. That old narrative is meant to be your table of contents. This is where I learn from. This is where I build. I can't build over here. You can't build over there. That's why every time you try to go back over there and try to build some shit, it don't work. Because there's nothing meant to be built there. That's a wasteland. How am I building the wasteland? And playing with the buttons. You can't build over there. Motherfuckers trying to I talked about it in the broken record complex. You're trying to take what you learning now. You're like, ooh, I'm gonna take this over there. No, it's not meant for that. It's not meant for over there. You got to submit, stop dismissing. Because the longer you over there, you're going to dismiss your own healing. Niggas going to go around and debate with niggas that are in church and shit, but you omitting the aspects of the shit that they're learning in church. Nigga, once you learned your shit and you synthesize that, go back and learn that. It's all there. The only reason that you dismiss it and knock that shit down and dismiss it It's because you don't understand it. The same thing that they doing to your shit. You're spiritual. You in your bag. You talking about Kemet. You talking about sigils. You talking about all this shit over here. The same reason that they knocking that shit off is the same reason that you keep knocking it off. Y'all at a standstill. Neither one of y'all want to submit your ego. Neither one of y'all want to submit. Both of y'all want to be right. This shit ain't about being right. When I let go of that trying to be right shit, I won every fucking time. When I let go of trying to be right, when I let go of trying to be right, I won every time. I'm a winner. I'm always mastering. Fuck winning, I'm mastering. I don't win nor lose, I master. When I let go of that, I need to win, I need to be right, I need to have the upper hand. I became the master. I let go of the emotional aspect. When I accepted that it isn't them, it's really me, then I was able to master myself. I was able to listen more. I was able to respond. I was able to respond. I was able to inform. I'm able to teach. I can't teach from a bias. I can. Correction. You can't teach from a bias. You're only going to be feeding you're only going to be feeding the behavior. Yeah, see, that's why I act that way, because they doing this, this, and this. Most motherfuckers are only feeding your behavior. Behavior cements your emotions into the timeline. If you're acting a certain way and getting the same thing, it's time to address why you behave the way you behave. It's time to address why you behave the way you behave. If I do not address how I behave in the space and not define, okay, cool, I behave this way, I keep getting this, this, and this. Maybe I need to address my behavior. Maybe, just maybe, it's time for me to address my behavior. Is my behavior based in the true aspects of love, peace, or is my behavior based in fear? Therefore, I'm stagnant. I got comfortable in my behavior. I got comfortable with what I was receiving. So I'm going to keep acting this way. But nothing seems to fit no more. Nothing seems to work. I remember back in 2006 when I won $6,000 off a scratch off. I ain't won it since. Okay. It's not the fact that you won the 6Gs. It's what you did with it. The behavior that corresponded to what you did with it. That's why you ain't won that 6Gs again. Because you're no longer in the space where that behavior works. You got to put in this work. You can avoid all day. But as long as that behavior is intact, you're going to keep repeating it. Until you apologize for your own behavior, it's only going to keep repeating yourself. Everything down here is based in behavior. Y'all mad, motherfuckers was upset as hell about Trump. That nigga served a behavior. That nigga gave you keys into what you needed to learn in that space. What are you going to do now? They're only based in behavior. Barack, Kennedy, George Washington, Biden, Camilla. Are you really mad at Camilla Harris, or are you still mad at your mother? Things you need to think about. Are you mad at the representation of Camilla? Or are you still mad at how your mother Are you still mad at the representation of your mother? Your mother didn't represent the mother, so now you triggered by Kamala Harris not representing a woman of color. Your daddy issues, stop putting them into other things. You put your father issues into Joe Biden, Bill Gates, Kevin Samuels, and all this other shit instead of you really like, why is it triggering me? Maybe you still got some dad issues you got to deal with. Maybe you got some uncle issues you got to deal with. Maybe the reason you don't like, maybe just maybe the reason you don't like Kevin Samuels is because he reminds you of that uncle that gave you candy and told you to sit on his lap all the time. Maybe, just maybe. I don't know. Maybe, just maybe. But it's time to deal with that shit. That's everything outside of you is only going to keep bringing you back to that same point. The behavior, you react in a certain way, you triggered, you upset, you mad. Niggas ain't taking accountability. Are you taking accountability? Then it don't matter. I'm taking accountability for my actions. I'm taking responsibility for my actions. Therefore, I can care less about anybody else taking responsibility for their actions. But I have the compassion to understand and be open enough to the space of understanding why they don't. Anything outside of that is avoidance. And avoidance breeds gaslighting. So if I sit here and tell it, you ain't got to do that, you ain't got to, you all right, I'm trying to keep that motherfucker comfortable. I ain't about keeping nobody comfortable. That's not my intention. I don't want you comfortable. I want you to be uncomfortable as fuck. I want you to really see things for how they are. I really want you to deal with yourself and deal with the things you need to deal with. I truly desire that. I directly demonstrate that every single day. I do that every single day. If it was based on attachment, I give you examples of being based on attachment. For me, that I've learned. I give you examples. My old thought process was when I first started doing God, when I first started putting together God thoughts and sharing my thoughts like into that narrative. I would literally wait to see what the response would be or the reaction would be to whatever I would say. It wasn't until I came into this state of mastery that understanding my human design as a manifestor generator is to invoke thought and to burn shit up. As long as I'm invoking thought, true thought, invoking true thought, burning shit up, and challenging in everything that I do, that's the base of my quality. I'm outside of time. I'm in the ethers. Therefore, I'm outside of time. So time doesn't exist. So time is not a factor to me. Time is not a factor to me in the aspects so I can discipline myself. So now, whenever I deliver, when I speak, when I do everything that I do, I have people now that are looking back at posts from like 2018 that are just now coming into contact with me. I'm grateful and in gratitude because that's what it was meant for. See, if it's not meant for what it's meant for, then you'll assume that motherfuckers ain't rocking with you. You assume that motherfuckers don't love you. You assume motherfuckers don't know what real shit is. You assume a lot of shit. I had to get that assumption out of my mind because I can't build on assumptions. I can't build on an assumption. I need a plan. I need to put a plan into motion. I need a plan of action. I need a mission statement. I needed to formulate into my mission statement. If it challenges my mission statement, it's time for me to address my mission statement. It's all about addressing yourself. It's all about honoring your thoughts into yourself. If I'm not honoring me, I can't expect anybody else to honor it. I got to submit to myself first. I got to submit to my own bullshit first. Got to submit to it. Building the base so I ain't got to come back. You're building a base. You're building a foundation so you ain't got to come back. We got to stop building based on escaping. You building based on the escape plan or the coping narrative. It's always going to sound like, well, they're not doing this, this, and this. Maybe they don't know. Why don't you do it? Nah, man, because they made themselves the face of that. All right. You accepted them as the face of that. Whenever we accept things, we accept the emotional aspects that are put within that space. That's why most motherfuckers get drained. Because you accept something without questioning it. You accept something without really. Let me correct that. No, that was right. You're accepting things based on the questions to the answers that you already know. You're accepting things based on the answers. So when you ask the question, you already know. You already have an idea in your mind. That's why when it comes to questioning things, and if you're looking for comfort, you're dismissing the lesson. This is the dismissing of the lesson that is meant to be brought into that space. You're not used to being direct, or your version of being direct is based on being biased. That means you go into the space, you ask the question, or you make the statement, and you say, yo, either you gonna deal with this statement or not. You got some time before you get to that point. I can go into a space and be direct because I have a plan that matches it. Yo, this is this, and this. My plan does not defer me. My plan does not kick me out of not learning from that space. Because now I have the ability to be aware, or my clairvoyance, my clairambience, my clairs, my psychic abilities. I can sense when a motherfucker's projecting. I can see where they're projecting from. I can see the wound. I can understand. I can see the wound. That's the depth of you being vulnerable. Until you're vulnerable, when you see the wound, you don't know how to react. You don't know how to respond to the wound. See, we get to a point with ourselves where we can see the wound because we see it within ourselves, but we're still stuck in a state of reacting to the wound. And then we write it off with some new age shit. They're toxic. They're energy vampires. They're toxic. They're energy vampires. They're draining us. They wolves in sheep's clothing. They reptiles. They're archon. We only keep saying the same shit. We say what we've learned, but we can't speak from what we've mastered. We can't simplify it. Why? All of us got the fucking serpent energy within us of that Kundalini aspect. So anything outside of that shows us that reptilian aspect, It's showing us how to rise into ourselves. But if I'm looking at it based on a bias, where I say that I got an enemy, that means I still got an enemy I got to deal with inside of myself. I still got some work to do. Honesty with yourself. Instead of you sitting there in that space trying to make it fit. Let that shit go. Let that shit go. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. I'm sorry, I'm not sorry. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. You have to fully define inside of you. You got to fully define the aspects of inside that dealing with yourself. You got to fully define these aspects and become the steadfast example before you can build anything else. You can't skip that step. There's many points that you can skip through and jump through to get to certain points in your there's certain things that you can skip through because you've already mastered it. But when it comes to the works, the internal works, you can't skip these steps. When it comes to dealing with the lineage of the feminine energy in your life, in your timeline, you can't skip those steps. When it comes to dealing with those masculine aspects in your timeline, the masculine counterparts in your timeline, you can't skip those steps. That means you can't keep skipping over that father issue. You can't keep skipping over the mother issues, those auntie issues, those grandmother. You can't keep skipping over those issues and then coming into this current space being like, yo, so this is me. You don't know yourself in full. You haven't embraced yourself in full. Because once you embrace yourself, you become the mother, you become the father, you become the highest aspect. You are your ancestors. You become the highest aspect. Either you're going to do it yourself. Here's how the positioning works. Either you're going to do it yourself or you're going to be put into that position to master and learn it. You're always in the right position. So if you're a mother, that's the shit you need to learn. Everything that comes into your space is going to teach you the aspects of the nurturing energy, nurturing yourself, having the conversations that your mother have it, because you, based in reaction, you'll avoid the same conversations that you felt your mother should have had. You'll avoid those when it comes to your your child. You'll avoid them. I don't know how to have that conversation. I never had that conversation before. Maybe you need to sit down with yourself and have that conversation with yourself. Maybe you really need to actually have that therapy session. Stop avoiding it. But nah, I ain't got time. Time is only your behavior. So the less you acknowledge your behavior, the less time that you have. If you've ever noticed, the less you acknowledge your behavior and your reactions, the less time that you have. If your behavior is always based in anger, fear, then you'll never have time. If your behavior is based in love, you always seem to have ample time. In either case, you must define the space, which is your opportunity. Or else you're going to be sitting there mad at motherfuckers forever. I have no time to be mad at people. I have no time to be upset, mad, projecting. I have no time for that shit. I got a purpose I got to knock out. You have no time for the distraction. You have no time for the crutch or the pacifier. Stop looking for the pacifiers. Stop putting yourself in a space where you get to a point and then it challenges your behavior to go further. And then you say, well, I'm not going to change. Every time you say you're not going to change, you are denying the apology to your inner child. That's how deep that shit gets to you. Every time you do not accept Every time you do not accept change, you are denying the chance to apologize to your inner child. I don't know how many times I did not accept a chance to learn the aspects of my behavior and did not realize that I was only hurting my inner child. My inner child had to stay in that dark space. So since my behavior was in that space, internally, externally, I searched for niggas. I searched for chicks. I searched for motherfuckers to really look at me and not provide me what I wasn't providing myself. That's ultimately what you're doing. By you not providing it to yourself, by you not acknowledging these behaviors within yourself, by you not submitting to what your soul needs you to sacrifice, you're ultimately always saying, okay, by you avoiding these emotional aspects of yourself, dealing with your emotions, really sitting there with yourself, you're automatically going to look for motherfuckers that are in the same counterpart. They're emotionally unavailable. They're too emotional. They don't know how to honor their emotions. All until you learn the lesson. You done had 19 relationships. All the same person. And you keep saying it to yourself, yo, every motherfucker that I meet is the same motherfucking way. Surprise. Nigga, they are the same person. They're based on your behavior. Until you change your behavior, until you understand your emotions, they're only going to do the same exact shit. Yeah, one may eat your ass. Yeah, one may eat your ass. Another one may lick your balls a certain way, and you might get stuck in it. Which reminds me of a story. I had a homeboy. That nigga was stuck on this one chick because I don't know why he was stuck on her, because she looked like the ant from Ants. She looked like the big ant. She looked like the Debo ant from Ants, but he was stuck on her. And I remember when she tried to come around my way and trying to holler, talk to me, and she was showing me videos. I'm like, oh, that's why that nigga was stuck on you. You did some shit that nigga wasn't used to. Is that all you can do? And then I challenged her. I was like, you know what sex magic is? She was like, nah, I ain't never really heard about it. This is sex magic. You know what the Eucharist is? She was like, nah, that's when we mix our fluids in your menstrual blood together and put it on our tongues. She was like, oh, you into some different shit. I was like, I didn't say I was into it. I challenged the space. Some of y'all keep avoiding shit because you're afraid to challenge the space. Some of y'all are afraid to do some shit because you're afraid to challenge the space. You're afraid to push that envelope. The next time a chick come up to you, instead of you getting mad when a chick come up to you and she talk about, well, her and her man want to have some fun, and how do you challenge it? How do you master the energy? How do you master the energy? If a chick walk up to me and try to say some shit to me on some basic shit, I'm going to push the envelope to see how far she's willing to go. Because based on her behavior, she ain't gonna go that way anyway. What am I gonna get mad at? That's like me getting upset if I go out somewhere and if a dude asks was to act like, hey, if shorty walking to me, be like, hey babe, hey, this guy just asked me for a drink, asked to buy me a drink. You tell that nigga to buy me one too. But what if he does it? What if he does do it? If he buys me a drink, all right, cool. Let's see how far we can go with it. That's all you doing down here is seeing how far you gonna go with the shit. Everything down here is teaching you how far you willing to go. If I'm with a shorty and shorty be like, this nigga asked me to if a nigga asks a shorty I'm with to get her, can he buy her a drink? Tell the nigga to buy me one too. If he buys the drink and he keeps going, let's see how far we can go. Take it all the way. If that nigga's still trying to push up on advance, I can guarantee you if you tell that nigga, hey, yeah, like I'm into that, but you gotta if my nigga release in my mouth, you gotta drink it. That nigga move away. Instead of you avoiding these spaces, you need to go into these spaces. That's the only way you gonna master it. You gotta stop avoiding this shit. This shit keep repeating for you because you ain't mastering the shit. Next time a nigga walk up to you and talk about you want to rock your world, be like, the same thing I just said. Use that shit. Tell that nigga the same shit. Be like, hey, yo, yeah, I'm into that, but I mean, if I swallow you, if you release in my mouth, you gotta suck it back out my asshole or some shit. You gotta you gotta push these envelopes. That's the only way you break away from the emotional attachment. And you actually start coming into your connection of yourself. That's the only way, because you got to take yourself to that next fucking level. Everything down here is going to push you to the next fucking level. You got to, it's not about you doing it in remaining pious, as I said as I talked about in Piety Society. It's not about you remaining pious. It's about you removing the humanity so it works for you. That way you ain't sitting there like, oh my God, that nigga nasty. Yeah, that you gotta be dead. You gotta be Deadpool. You gotta know the thing that I learned from Deadpool. That nigga knows he's in a comic book. That nigga knows he's in a movie. That nigga has accepted he's in a movie. Since I'm in it, since I'm in this shit, I might as well take it to the next level. Y'all niggas avoiding the next level. If you avoiding the next level down here, as above, so below, remember you recite these goddamn laws all the fucking time, but what the fuck are you really doing with them? Your little ass still trying to be human, it ain't gonna work. This healing, when you get into this healing work, this internal aspect, and you start really diving into your internal healing, and you doing your healing work, and you mastered your healing work, you change everything. Everything's gonna change. You ain't doing all this shit to stay the fucking same. I didn't do any of my shit to remain the same identity that I don't want to come. If you are doing your work in heavy quotes and you keep remaining the same, you're not doing your work. If you keep doing your work and you keep coming out the same person, just with a different hat or some different clothes or some different accessories, you just gain some new accessories, you're not doing your work. You're not invoking anything. You're not building into yourself. All you're doing is replacing one to the other. I know a dude, he a Moor, and his first conversation with me is like, I'm teaching niggas how to bootleg because I'm robbing them of their shit. And I said to myself, I was like, that's nice. But why don't you just hop on Shopify, and start your own print on demand company? I.e., I created Occult Alchemy. And you create your own print, your own print on demand t-shirt business. That way you ain't gotta go to wherever you going to go get these low budget ass clothes, and you go grab a Gucci purse and it ain't real Gucci, but you go put some symbols on it, or a Michael Kors bag, and you make it look like something in order to sell to somebody's emotions. Why don't you really sell to somebody and based on the connection? Nigga looked at me. I ain't talked to that nigga since. I pushed the envelope. I ain't talked to that nigga since. That's the only way you gonna get out of the shit that you in, is by pushing the envelope. The longer that you sitting there in that space with yourself, by not pushing that envelope or not changing anything or not investing into the changes, shit gonna stay the same. You want some shit to change, you got to do that shit inside yourself. The Diddy from the Notorious movie, in order to change the world, we got to change ourselves. What are you doing? Besides quoting some shit, regurgitating some shit, putting yourself in a position where you keep doing the same shit. That's the inheritance. I talked about that before. It's on the channel. The aspects of that inheritance. You leave right now. You transition right now. If you have children, what do they inherit? You worked at Taco Bell for 40 years. That's a long ass time. You worked at Taco Bell for 40 fucking years. Your kids can't even go in there and get a job at Taco Bell. They're only going to inherit the same behavior that you left. That's all that's being inherited is behavior. The behavior, the emotional catalyst, the emotional timeline. Until you heal your emotional timeline, until you deal with your emotional timeline, deal with your behaviors, change your behavior, all you're going to be leaving behind is that same piece. And the worst part about that is you return back here. Reincarnation happens every time that you wake up and don't change shit. We got to stop looking at it based on, I'm not trying to come back here. We got to get the white man off the planet. They met down here. They were created down here. They're not going to leave. Their behavior. They're based in behavior. They're not going to leave. They're here. You cycle back through, you gonna see them when you gonna see them on your way back up. Keep repeating the same shit. You mad at nigga, they making us wear masks and shit. All right. Have fun with it, nigga. Have fun with the shit. You complaining, man, they're making us wear masks and they trying to cut off our breathing and try to shut off our minds and shit. All right, don't wear the mask. Either you gonna put it on or you not gonna put it on. You have one or two choices. You always have one of two choices. Either you not gonna put it on or you gonna put it on. Either way, you got to define why you put it on or why you didn't put it on. Either way, you going, either you're accepting the definition within, either you're dismissing the authenticity and to create the space, or you are submitting to the space to learn the space, to master it. One or two choices. Nah, man, I'm bucking against the system because if I tell them this, and this, nigga, all right. At the bottom line of it, do you have an LLC? This the shit they gonna ask you. Do you have a company? Do you have a brand? Do you have a platform? What is your platform and based in? The byproduct of your platform, your everything that you do is based on your emotions anyway. So if I own my emotions, then I fully own my company. Therefore, they can't do anything to me that I'm not prepared to deal with. It's only when you're not prepared to deal with it, based in your emotional catalyst, your behavior that created that space that gets challenged, that make you change up anyway. What you about to do? Do the same shit you did last week? Do the same shit you did last year? Everything to my mindset now has changed, even into the aspects of how I want to move forward. I no longer want to, I know when I fully took accountability, fully started changing aspects about the struggle narrative, the lack mindset, everything changed. Whole other lane opened up for me. Whole other aspects opened up. And I honored it in that space. I didn't try to bring it back down. I honored it where it was at, where it came to me at. I acknowledged it where it was at. I accepted it where it was at. I learned where it was at. That way in the mental scape, by the time I was in that space, I learned in that when you learn inside of the space and it changes your behavior, when you master the behavior that's needed to be within that space, your emotions meet you into that space. That's the invoking of your energy into the space. If I'm tapped into my gratitude, my gratefulness, my prosperity, my abundance, these higher level energies, my joy, my peace, my first goal is to create the space for it to come into. That way, as I'm breaking down these walls, naturally that energy comes down and it destroys everything else. It naturally checks the residuals of my old behavior. That way I don't fall back into my own behavior. This is you working on yourself. Like there's no old behavior for me to fall back into. That creates that's chaos. That's the constant stream of chaos. My constant stream of chaos is the fact that there is no behavior for me to fall back into. There is no old emotional pattern, there is no old emotional pattern for me to fall back into. I define that as chaos. That's the hell. I define all of this down here as chaos. Therefore, I do not fall back into chaos. I know how to feed from chaos. That's your training. That's your growth. That's you tapping into yourself. But it takes you actually doing this work. It actually takes you tapping into your work. It actually takes you into challenging accepting these challenges. Because that's why you're here. That's why you in the space that you in. Because it's time for you to challenge it. You keep coming in, you like, oh my God, it's time for you to challenge them behaviors. It's time for you to deal with this shit. It's time for you to really do your work. It's time for you to get your shit in order. You've been denying and dismissing it for so long, and now you're at a point where it can't be dismissed. Either you're going to submitting to the process, and I know it's scary. I know it's hard. I know it seems hard because submitting to that process is automatically going to challenge everything that you ever once thought. But that's what it's there for, to challenge everything that you once thought. That way you actually can tap into yourself. That way you ain't looking there and being like, oh my God, but I got it. No, that shit don't exist no more. It don't exist anymore. It doesn't exist. That shit never was supposed to last. That relationship was never supposed to last. That relationship, that what you trying to reach for and trying to find, you got to create that within yourself. Until you create it within yourself, you're only going to be repeating this shit. Ain't nothing worse than repeating something that you know you could have got the first time. Knocked out the first time. Ain't nothing worse than that. 1 second. Oh. Ooh, need some water. I'm going to leave the floor open. Any questions? Any questions? It's that Q&A period. You have any questions? It ain't got to be about the lesson. Anything that's the first question that come to your mind, go ahead and ask a question, and we'll build from there. We'll do that nice little build. I love doing like readings. I'm gonna do a collective reading. Any questions to that point? But our main key is to break this. The main key is to break the behaviors in the behavior, acknowledge our behaviors that are created based on the emotional montages of us dismissing the internal work that is needed. You're happy at the space that you at. I understand. I remember being happy at the space that I was at a point in time. But I realized that I couldn't go any further because of my behavior. My behavior in that space was only meant for that scape, for that where I was at. That's where my behavior was meant. Once I started challenging once I accepted the challenges of my behavior without bias, that's when I was able to grow. That's when I was able to actually start doing real shit. That's when I was able to start tapping into my real magic, tapping into my real power. I didn't need a catalyst outside of myself. How do you identify the avoidances or the underlying issues? That is a great question. Let me think. I'm trying to put them. Your avoidances are, the avoidance is in correspondence to the like, use an example. If somebody's making you upset all the time, if somebody can make you upset, if somebody makes you mad, somebody can make you upset, we understand that whoever controls my emotions is my master. So what am I avoiding every time that somebody upsets me It's in the aspects of what that for example, one example is who that person is, or what that person is, or what I define them to be. What I define them to be. That's me taking accountability. So let's say, for an example, if let's say me and you having an argument. Let's me and you having to talk. Me and you having an argument. And at a point in time in the argument, the first key to any argument is understanding when I go into an argument, this is the way to understand the avoidance. When I go into an argument, what energy or what emotion am I putting into this argument? Am I speaking from anger? My behavior is based in anger, sadness, to one of these narratives. So automatically, when I go into this space or I'm having this conversation, my conversation is being streamed through fear. So I can say, using a killer, here's a killer example. Whole train of thought. Just black. Okay. Here's it. Break it down. So if I'm having a conversation, I sit here and say that I want to go to simple. Shorty want to be like, yo, man, I need a chick that cook and clean for me. Go get someone like your mama. Man, you know I ain't never had a mother in my life. My avoidance in that aspect, or the emotional aspect, the avoidance would be stating, you know I didn't have that. I told you that in confidence. The underlying issue in that conversation is I have mother issues, because I feel that at some point in time, my underlying issue that I'm avoiding is the reason why my mother, since my mother didn't cook or clean or do something to that narrative. That's my underline. I'm avoiding that aspect by trying to voice that into the space. That's what I need. That's what I require. My underlining issue is my father left, and I don't know why my father left, or I don't know why my father wasn't present in my life. Maybe if my mother cooked and cleaned and did certain things, maybe my father would have been present in my life. So my underlying issue is my issues with not having a father, and I'm avoiding the maternal aspect or the nurturing aspect of addressing it to my mother. So basically, when you break it down, is the avoidance is what you the avoidance is what you indirectly or directly speak into that space, and the underlying issue is what leads to that. So my underlying issue is my underlying issue is my mother issues, and by me avoiding my mother issues, I project into my space. This is what I need. This is what I require. This is what you need to do in order to be inside of my space. If you don't do these things, I can avoid what I need to learn. The reason that this person came into my space is to show me what I'm avoiding. Nine times out of 10, when people come into your space, they're showing you exactly what you're avoiding. The correspondence and correlation is to what they're doing. So if you hate niggas, like let's say you got a chick, you got a homegirl that's running around all the fucking time, and she got multiple niggas. One of the examples I said earlier on. She finding herself in multiple niggas. You don't like that. Why don't you like it? You got to remove the moral parameters. That's wrong. That's nasty. She got to find love for herself. The underlining issue is why. Maybe it might be because you saw your mother do the same thing, or you saw your mother do the same thing, or you saw your father doing the same thing. That underlying issue is defined in what you don't like about that person, what you don't like about that space. Similar to like someone saying children are missing or pedophilia. Yes, it's something that is a traumatic. Yes, it's something that can be seen as horrible in the human narrative, but you're removing ourselves from the human narrative to see what I'm avoiding. Every time that I got triggered, when I saw like the Catholic kids getting on TV, when I really sat with it, and saw what I was avoiding, I realized that I was avoiding certain internal issues with my inner child. It's easy to attach emotionally to the external to avoid the internal. That underlying issue is what is feeding that external narrative. So it always breaks down into what you're being triggered by. So if you're in a relationship, you get triggered by your boyfriend all the goddamn time. You get triggered by your girlfriend all the goddamn time. Why are you being triggered by them? What are they doing? They act really, really childish. When's the last time that you had a conversation with your inner child? That may be your underlying concept. That might be the underlying concept. You keep meeting childish people because you are denying your inner child. You're avoiding those inner child wounds. You're avoiding that abandonment wound. You're accepting, or rather expectancy of them to grow up or to do certain things or to be a certain way is all based in the underlying narrative of, have you defined that with your inner child yet? Have you had that conversation with your inner child? Have you have you had a conversation with your inner child? Have you dealt with the inner child narratives? Have you dealt with any traumas? Not when I say trauma, we're talking about the aspects of, have you dealt with the first time your mother told you no, or you were denied something? That's your underline is always the emotion. Your underline is always the emotions that lead to you behaving or reacting a certain way, or something in your space reacting a certain way. Excusing yourself for certain things you wouldn't do, excuse other people for doing, i.e., judging yourself based on the intentions of others based upon their actions. Yep. Exactly. You got to stop looking at people from this space of expecting them to do something that you have not yet done for yourself. You have to take yourself out of this space of, I can't expect anybody to do some things for things that I've not identified with inside of myself. You can't do it. It doesn't work. It's a constant narrative that you see all the damn time. Like I can't make people do or expect people or set this assumption in my mind that because what it's going to cause is you're going to try to do something, and based on the assumption of you doing this, so if I do these things right here, then my assumption is because I'm doing this, they're going to do that. That's not how it's going. That formula does not work, because all that creates is dismissing and dormancy. That anchors the behavior of you sitting there in that space of behavior and dormancy. Your behavior stays intact, their behavior stays intact, because they're only going to do it to a certain point until they find something else that is less challenging. Remember, your behavior is it degrades? Yes, your behavior degrades. Your behavior is the emotional projection. It degrades. It constantly needs the stimulus. In that case, would be an assumption. You need the assumption. You need the falsified intention. You need that space to keep your behavior going. That's why so many people will get into a space with themselves with relationships, and after about 6 months, 3 months, 2 months, 2 weeks, if it's not giving them the certain stimuli to maintain their behavior, they'll automatically be like, see, I'm not feeling you no more. But because they're stuck in a state of avoidance, that's where you got ghosting from. Niggas would be like, you got niggas that'll be ghosting. You got motherfuckers out here having side chicks and side niggas. All these trauma responses. Everything outside of you, based on you unhealed, is a trauma response. Everything once you a trauma response, i.e. an experience. Everything once you've mastered your trauma responses, how you react, and you come into a sense of response, is now based in observation. So now, since I've identified what I've been avoiding, since I've identified my underlying issues, now when I'm in this space, now I can observe. Now I can observe not only when somebody's projecting to me, but the primary aspect is me being able to acknowledge when I'm projecting onto somebody else. So my projections, if I'm projecting, I'm always assuming. If you're projecting, 9 times out of 10, you're always going to assume. If you're projecting from a certain space. Just like what I've talked about, the aspect of honoring your thoughts. I honor my thoughts, take it to the highest point. So now I can see if somebody's projecting. I can see if somebody's acting a certain way. Oh, you're acting weird. No, I'm not. As before, when I was stuck within the behavioral aspect, I knew I was acting funny. I knew why I was acting funny. But I was not willing to directly say why I was acting that way. In a healed aspect, you're able, if you're in a space, relationship, whether it's a friendship, relationship, whatever it may be, if you cannot openly express your emotions, key part, into a space of learning your emotions, then you shouldn't be in that space. That space is based in projection. That's an illusionary space anyway. A lot of us get stuck in illusionary relationships, or a lot of us get stuck in the illusion of a relationship because we program that relationship based on our behavior and the emotions that we are very much avoiding. Water is delicious. But the main thing to do is, and the biggest way to be able to, because once you've identified that underline, that's where the accountability, that's where the acknowledgement, the accountability, and apologizing to yourself comes into. You have to apologize to yourself and acknowledge in an apology, I am willing and open to change this behavior. I'm willing and open to change this behavior. This behavior is no longer suitable to my growth. That behavior is no longer suitable to your growth. Oh shit, that's crazy. Some of the damn cards in the same cards came out. That's pretty damn amazing. While you guys are, if anybody has any other questions, I'm gonna do the collective reading real quick. I keep pulling the same 5 cards. That's crazy. No problem. I'm glad it made sense. We're learning ourselves. Like the main key aspect is, as you're learning yourself, you got to be you got to be gentle. You have to be gentle in learning yourself, but you got to be fierce in your response. I've said that before. You got to be gentle with learning yourself, but you got to be fierce in your response. You can't be, what's the word? You can't sit there in your space with yourself and you're like, no, I want to do, no. You can't fight it. You got to be gentle. You got to be gentle with yourself, but you got to be steadfast. You got to be serious about you saying, like, this is what I'm releasing it. I got to let go of this. I have to deal with this aspect. Maybe I need to have a couple days. Maybe I need to take this time to myself. I'm not used to being by, like, I've had so many people come to me like, but I'm not used to being by myself. I'm used to always having something going. And I always break it down to them. Like, if you always feel like you need to keep going somewhere, you always feel like you need to if you always have this inherent feeling to want to keep going places and needed to keep doing things, and you got to keep yourself in a state of relevancy, that's a masculine wound that you have to deal with. And when you feel, that's the masculine wound. When you're sitting in a space and you feel lethargic and you feel like you need something to guide you, you always feel like you need something to make you do something, or you need an external thing to make you do something. Like you're not lazy, but when you don't work, you don't do anything. You're in your feminine aspects or your feminine wounds. Everything has a correspondence. Everything has a corresponding aspects into that balance with yourself. Until you learn these aspects, until you're willing to open up to these aspects, become vulnerable, open up, and really learn these aspects of yourself, that behavior will stay cemented into that space. That's that karmic debt. That's that karmic marker that keeps your emotions locked up. But I'm gonna do this collective reading. If you're interested in a reading, and you don't want to do it live, or if you're interested in a reading, you don't necessarily want to do it live, you know, to hit me up inbox, hit me up at Godico Alchemist, hit me up in the inbox on Facebook, Rock All Anijas, hit me up on Instagram, Papa_Lucy666. You can hit me up in Godico Alchemist LLC.com. Do that build. I'm doing the donation-based readings. Appreciate all the support. Appreciate the support for the lesson. Y'all stopping through. Y'all in the position that you're in the position that you need to be in. It's time to really hit that. Trying to really hit that button for yourself. First card that I pull is, it's time. This is your opportunity. Page of Wands illustrates that aspect of that opportunity. That Seven of Wands represents that battle of yourself, that internal battle. This is your opportunity, right? This is your opportunity. This is the opportunity, the opportune space for you to deal with that battle that you keep having with yourself. The Sun in reverse represents that you're not dealing with it. As we look at the Sun in reverse, the inner children, or those inner aspects of yourself, they're there, but as we look at them, in that they're not enjoying it. You're there, you're in the space, you're in the space, but something in you is not enjoying it. That's that old aspect, or the behavior, or that ego aspect, trying to say, see, you're not going to enjoy healing. You're not going to enjoy doing your internal work. You're not going to enjoy doing what you're about to do, because if you do this, then what does it leave left? You know exactly. It's going to bring you into this new grounding. You're not doing all the stuff that you're doing now, you're not doing it to stay the same. The shit that you breaking down, the walls that you're breaking down, these old aspects that you're addressing, you're not doing any of this shit to stay tethered to the old aspects. You're doing this to master your space, to ground yourself, to bring yourself into acceptance, to bring yourself into that authenticity in order for you to be able to make that decision to move forward. It's time for you to make that. It's time for you to make that choice. Time for you to do what you've been telling yourself. You know what? I've been saying I'm going to do it, but I haven't been doing it. I keep making excuses. My excuses keep creating. My excuses and my thoughts keep creating the things that keep cementing my excuses. It's time to sit with yourself. The Four of Swords represents that sitting with yourself. And if we look at these blades around us, allow the aspects to be cut away. Allow ourselves to cut this new path. Because the only one that's holding all the damn swords, you feeling like somebody gonna cut me short. You're the only one holding everything. It's all in your hands. It's all in your hands what you want to do. What do you want to do? Ask yourself that question before you go to bed tonight. What do you want to do? What do I need to be doing? Go to sleep with that thought. Meditate to that thought. Put yourself into that meditative trance with that thought. You know what you need to be doing. You know what you need to be doing. You know exactly what you need. You know exactly you're in the position to do what you need to do. It's up to you to assess it. It's up to you to access it. All I can do is become the vessel. Ha! I love it. I love that shit. Let me read that shit out loud. I think I got the answer. Doctor said, I think I got the answer to my question. I keep breaking the fifth wall and Deadpool this shit up. That's all you got to do. Keep moving forward in that space. Which leads into that last card. That's the aspects of perception. Which leads into that finalizing that answer. It's all in that perception. What are you doing with it? This is your shit. This is always, what are you gonna do with it? It's your space. Either you're gonna sit there and keep doing the same thing. Either way, it's gonna be efficient. Either you're efficient in avoidance or you're efficient in your healing. Which one you gonna do? Which one you gonna tap into? Which one? That's you. What you want to do? You gonna own it, or you gonna keep subleasing? Are you gonna own your life, or are you gonna keep subleasing your shit? Cause that's all motherfuckers keep doing every time they wanna put it on somebody else. Are you gonna own your shit, or are you gonna keep subleasing your life? Key. Stop subleasing your life. Stop subleasing your life. Stop giving your life to others to make them to keep. Stop creating these subcontracts with others into shit that you know that based on avoidance. Stop creating the subcontracts. Acknowledge you. Be the fucking best. Be the fucking best. Again, I appreciate y'all stopping through. 1 second. Y'all have any more questions? Go ahead and drop them in the comments. But But yeah, consultations, readings, spiritual baths, coaching, therapy, the shadow work consultation that leads into the therapy. The readings are mini consults that leads into, okay, cool, what we got to work on next. GoticoAlchemistLLC.com. You follow me on Facebook. Rod Colonitas, hit me in the inbox. Follow me on Instagram, Papa_Lucy666. Hit me in the DM. So ain't no excuse. I want you to be the best. I want you to stop dismissing what is best for you to stay dormant into maintaining that behavior. Be the fucking best. Once again, be the fucking best. I'll see y'all. Yeah, I'll see y'all throughout the week. I'll see y'all if y'all hit up that consultation. I love you. We love us. Ashe.